Today I'm going to share how I turned my obstacle into an opportunity to help women. I call it SHAPE, but it started out not quite so. After spending my career helping companies navigate the shifting landscape among different generation groups of customers and employees, I decided to go back to school and earn my doctorate in management. I was particularly interested in two phenomena. At that time, there was a lot of discussion about the fact that by the year 2030, baby boomers would have retired from the workforce in their primary roles. And in that same year, the Department of Labor Statistics decided to let us know that millennials would take place having 3/4 of the jobs in the workforce. And there was a lot of discussion around the clashes of the different generations in the workplace. How many of you have had an opportunity to have a challenge with someone from a different generation group at your workplace? Yeah, it's a real thing. And there was a lot of discussion about it in the news, but there wasn't a lot of discussion about it in the research literature. And I was also very intrigued by what was happening with women. We were advancing our roles and numbers in the workplace, and we were increasing our education attainment, but we still lagged behind men in terms of pay parity and roles at the top, 3 positions in companies. And in fact, all these years later, women only represent and make about 81 cents for every dollar a man makes. And so I really wanted to study this. And so after I graduated as a newly minted doctor of management, thank you, I reached out to one of my former dissertation advisors who was an expert in the field of advancing women and in leadership development. I wanted to do a study that looked at the intersectionality of both generational work and advancing women. I reached out to her and I was expecting her to say, yes, Candace, we need more management scholars looking into this. But that's not what happened. She said to me, no, I will not help you. It is well documented in the literature that women lack self-efficacy. And that's why after 2 decades of trying to help women, nothing has moved, nothing can be done. The generational context means nothing. And your work is a waste of time. Yeah. I'm going to be honest, I was embarrassed. I was angry. I was confused. I had already paid for that degree. But more importantly, I disagreed. How many of you listening to me right now know a very capable and talented woman who should be advancing in her career but isn't? Or can't? It could be some of you in this room thinking about your own circumstance. And as far as a generational context, when you were born and what was happening historically shapes what's important to you, what you value, and how you view things when you go to work. Think of it this way. If you were growing up and once you left school or college, you could walk into a company and then 25, 30 years later, walk out of that same company with a defined pension or retirement plan, you might feel very differently about loyalty than someone who will never have that opportunity. If when you were growing up, the answer to any question you ever had was just a quick Google search away, you might feel differently if you ask someone a question and they refuse to answer you, or they're vague, or there's transparency, or lack of transparency. These examples begin to explain why a baby boomer might feel differently or value different things than a millennial. And that's completely okay, because we can build a bridge. So I decided to look into this a little bit more. And instead of evaluating what was different about the different generation groups, I wanted to understand what were the threads that we can build on so that I can develop more practical tools and resources and concepts so that people could advance their careers. I conducted my study on my own, and one of the primary things I wanted to understand was what was important to people professionally. Here you see a list of 6 questions. And so from a group of 1,000 men and women of all generation groups, I wanted to know what's important to you right now in your career. Getting a promotion, making more money, changing careers, retiring, getting work-life balance, or doing well in your current job. And what I discovered is that regardless of generation group, women prioritize performance, doing well in their current role. Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z males prioritize making more money, and baby boomer males prioritize retirement. So my first key finding as a research fellow was that women go to work ready to do the best they possibly can in our jobs, and then want to get paid, and when it's all said and done, set off into the sunset. So that was an intriguing finding, but let's be honest, every company wants their employees to perform. So I dug deeper. And what I discovered is that the primary reason that a lot of women, particularly in the younger generations, were leaving is because they did not have clarity on what it would take for them to be developed to do well in their roles or to advance based on their performance in their roles. And that's a big deal because retaining employees can be a very expensive value proposition for companies. It can cost an organization up to 30% of an employee's salary to replace them. So I wanted to know what women wanted. And women said things in the study like, I wish I had a stronger financial foundation. I wish I knew how to negotiate better for what I wanted. I'm giving everything I can to this job, but my boss isn't recognizing how hard I'm working. I need to speak up for myself. I have something important to say. Women were embarrassed that they left too soon because things got more frustrating or more difficult than they can handle, and they gave up prematurely. And there were many women who felt that they were not equipped to be successful in their roles. So upon examining this information, and as a doctor of management, ladies, here's my career prescription. Number 1, save your money. Go as far beyond the 6 months that we've been hearing about as you can, because when you have a strong financial foundation, you can make decisions about your life and your career not based on financial fear. Number 2, recognize that hard work means working smarter, it means delegating, it means asking for help. It means that if you make a mistake, it doesn't mean that it has to be final. But more importantly, it means that you have to be on the same page as the person who's evaluating you. So whatever your generational context is, it's important to be aligned. Speak up for yourself. Advocate for yourself. And whatever you do, do not choose to silence yourself. And if that's difficult for you, surround yourself with people who will help advocate for you and train you to find your voice so that you can be your best representative for what you need. It's so great if you have a role where you're following your passion, but careers are journeys, and along the way, there are going to be highs and there are going to be lows. So it's really important that you think about when you're approaching difficulty, that you have an optimistic view, but you also have people in your corner who can be the wind beneath your wings when you run into those inevitable valleys. Because you don't want to miss out on something that could be great for you because you left prematurely. And then finally, commit to a strong educational foundation. For some of us, it'll mean formal education. For others, it'll mean practicing something new on your job, maybe certification. But for all of us, it should mean a commitment to lifelong development and learning. That way, when you're doing your role, you feel confident you have what you need to do well, and when you want to advance, you feel better prepared to take that next step. Ask yourself, how many of these steps are you doing for yourself? How many of these things are you doing for the people who report to you? Can you do these things? You see, a lot of companies are making great strides in providing benefits to help women get better work-life balance, childcare, parental leave, mentoring programs, but it's going to take a long time for that to reach everyone. And some companies don't have resources to do that. So ladies, when it comes to your career, I recommend that you get in shape. And whatever you do, choose to shape it for yourself.